right, February 24th, 3:12 p.m., Wright & Co. Law Offices. That's where we are. Okay. I'm so sorry, Mr. Wright. I'm so sorry for what my sister said. What did she say? I forget. Drastic crimes require... Oh, yeah, that. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to do in order to get him... In order for him to get the verdict we deserved. I didn't know. I never knew that the SL9 incident was just another name for the Joe Dart killings. Sounds like everyone's heard about these killings, but me! Lana wanted Dart convicted so badly that's why she used me. That's why she used what happened to me. What do you mean, what happened to you? It's all in there in the file. No, it's not. Joe Dark's last victim was Professor Neil Marshall. When he murdered Officer Marshall's brother, he left behind an incriminating piece of evidence. But what did you have to do? What did you have to do with those killings, Emma? On the night of Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered, Joe Dark tried to kill me. What? He tried to kill you? Officer Marshall's brother, Neil, was only trying to save me. So that means you... Yes. I was a witness in the Joe Dark trial. I didn't see that one coming. What a twist! I didn't see that coming! Wait a minute. Yeah, I did. I totally saw it coming. It happened 2 years ago. It was right about this time of the year, too. There was a terrible thunderstorm that day, unusual for the season. I was alone in my sister's office. We were planning to eat dinner together once she finished her work. Then suddenly, this terrifying man came bursting into the office. Joe Dark. It seemed like he was running from someone. He pulled out a knife and screamed at me. I didn't know what was going on. Just then, Prosecutor Marshall showed up. Jake Marshall's brother. Joe Dark tried to take me hostage. But before he could, Mr. Marshall tackled him. Then, what happened? I'll never forget it. Lightning struck and the lights went out. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed outside the window, lighting up the office for an instant. What I saw then burned a permanent picture in my mind. I still see it now. Permanent picture? I don't remember the moment when Dark stabbed Mr. Marshall. So you weren't able to testify about that? No, I was only asked about when I was attacked. That must be why Lana... why she made up the crime. Made it up? You mean provided bogus evidence? The prosecutor's office wanted that guilty verdict so badly. Lana forged the evidence and Mr. Edgeworth used it. Edgeworth? Yes, but I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. He couldn't have known he was being given false evidence. Even so, that's when it all started. The rumors about Mr. Edgeworth, I mean. It's all my fault. If I could have just testified properly, none of this would have ever happened. So it's true, even though he may not have known it, Edgeworth really was involved in falsifying evidence. After that case ended, Lana was never the same. She became cold like she is today. She must not have been able to face up to what she did, especially not to Emma. Well, what did you see in the instant that the crime occurred? Dark knocked down Mr. Marshall and raised his knife. Neil Marshall was stabbed right in front of this poor girl? I don't remember what happened after that. Apparently I passed out. When I came to, Lana was cradling me in her arms. Poor Emma. You've been through so much. I couldn't bring myself to testify about that instant. I tried, but the words just wouldn't come out. I drew a picture, but it wasn't any good. 2 years ago, you must have been 14? That's understandable. Of course it was all over. I made up my mind. And once it was all over, I made up my mind. I decided that when I grew up, I'd become a scientific investigator. I wanted to be able to fight crime with my testimonies. And find the evidence to make that an airtight case. That way, Alana would never have to forge any... I see. I think I'm finally starting to understand what makes Emma tick. But there's still something that bothers me about that crime. There's something that's puzzling me, Emma. What is it? You said you were in Lana's office at the time, right? That's right. Why then would a serial killer come running in there? Not only that, but he was being chased by a prosecutor. Oh, there's no mystery there. Joe Dark had been taken in for questioning that day. Taken in for questioning? You mean by the police? Of course. This happened at the police department. He tried to run away halfway through the interview and fled into my sister's office. But why did he run all the way over to your sister's office? Because the detective offices and the questioning room are right across from the elevator. Across from the elevator? But Lana was the chief prosecutor, wasn't she? No, silly. Didn't I tell you? 2 years ago, Lana was a detective. What? She was the best in the entire force. Oh, he said it. What? That's news to me. After the Joe Dark case, she was transferred to the prosecutor's office and made chief prosecutor. Lana used to be a detective? I better have another talk with her. Alright. I guess we need to have another talk with her. Let's have another talk with her. Lana, Mr. Wright, it seems I keep causing you trouble. Falsifying evidence? I didn't think you were the type. Criminals don't mind playing foul, why should we? But Lana, if you're wrong, an innocent person might be found guilty. Believe me, I understand the risks. Lana, Emma told me about you. Oh? About how you were a detective 2 years ago? And how the SL9 incident was the reason for your transfer to the prosecutor's office? That's right. Could you fill me in on the details, especially about the unusual change of jobs? I suppose you have a right to know, Mr. Wright. A lot of revelations were uncovered at the trial today, not the least of which was the fact that this case is largely connected to another one 2 years ago. Evidence from that case was stolen as well, though I expected as much. I know how obsessive Officer Marshall can be. That trial, it really wasn't fair, was it? I believed in you, Lana. I believed that no matter what happened, you'd always stick to the truth. It couldn't be helped, Emma. At that trial 2 years ago, I sold my soul. Well, all drama aside, the fact of the matter is, at 5:15, there was no murder at the police department. Tell me it's not true, what that witness Miss Starr said about you stabbing Mr. Goodman with a knife. Lana, I don't understand. Why won't you tell us? Emma, this doesn't involve just me. I don't think I've ever seen Lana look so fazed before. She's protecting somebody, or some people. It's very clear to me that she's protecting people. Or something, I don't know. Like, probably her sister. She's probably protecting her sister, but then again, she said it doesn't have to do with you or something like that. I don't know. It's true, I was a member of the police force 2 years ago. She was amazing. They still talk about all the cases that she and Chief Kent cracked together. Chief Kent? He was the deputy chief of police back then, but he's still working in crime scenes. Damon Grant. He was everything I aspired to be. He's probably somehow involved in this. I think he's somehow involved in this. They were the best team ever. They solved crimes before the reports could even be filed. Emma really idolizes her big sister. But now, you're chief prosecutor. What happened? I always planned on becoming a prosecutor. The reason I became a detective was to gain experience investigating crime scenes so you could use the experience in court, right? Gant's help in the SL9 incident was crucial to its resolution. After that, I became chief of police. He became chief of police and arranged my transfer to the prosecutor's office. Maybe I should ask more about this investigation of theirs 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was second in command in the detectives investigating Dark. Second in command? That means the investigation lead was Damon Grant, right? Yes, Deputy Chief Grant and I shared the same office and the same investigations. They even had the same office. We led a team of the best detectives on the force. Detective Goodman, whose case it was Jake Marshall and Angel Starr. It was the first time Marshall worked with his brother. He was quite gung-ho. Without a doubt, Joe Dark was the serial killer. We asked him to come in for questioning. We were desperate for evidence. That was when his final murder took place. When he tried to murder Emma? Prosecutor Marshall was trying to save me from Dark. You see, the first person who happened upon the scene of the crime was me. Now you tell us. Damon Grant and Neil Marshall were the ones questioning Dark that day. The investigation was in its final stages, and Dark must have suddenly panicked. So he waited until Gant and Marshall let their guards down and then fled the room. From here, he ran straight to the office shared by Deputy Chief Gant and myself. That's where he found me. So you were the first person to run to the scene, Lana? It appears so. I was filing some papers while Gant and Marshall were questioning Dark. When I returned to my office, I saw 3 bodies on the floor and smelled blood. That does not look right. That does not look right at all. Like, look at that. That's Dark right there at the bottom. What the heck? This is what you found? That doesn't that doesn't make any sense. 3 bodies. Prosecutor Marshall, the victim, Emma, who was passed out, and the suspect, Joe Dark. During the struggle, it seems Mr. Marshall struck a final blow before he died. Joe Dark had incurred a minor concussion and lay unconscious. Oh, I see. We're doing more than reading, we're investigating. Investigating. But yeah, I see what you mean. What did you do? To be honest, I panicked. I picked up Emma, carried her out of the room, and just held her there. Can't blame her, after all. Her sister must have gone through. After that, I placed Dark under immediate arrest. Let me get this straight. You were all involved in the SL9 incident. That's right. Quite a coincidence. I don't buy it. Well, what are you saying? There's no way everyone involved in this trial was also involved in that incident. Just by chance. But that case was solved 2 years ago. At least one person went to extremes because they didn't believe it was truly solved. Officer Marshall, yes, his actions came as a surprise to me as well. Ever since his brother died, he changed completely. I guess he wasn't convinced with the ruling against Joe Dark. Life doesn't end with the closing of a case. Everyone has to live the rest of their lives with their memories. That case just might not be over yet. Huh? Emma was assaulted by Dark at the police department, right? Yes, in the office that Damon Gant and I shared. The office that Mr. Gant now occupies by himself, the chief's office. Maybe we should have a look at the chief's office, the site of the final SL9 murder. Alright. Let's do it! Let's see if we can do that. We go to the criminal affairs department, right? They're directing us places, so we should go those places. I don't see Detective Gumshoe anywhere. Things seem kind of quiet around here. You're right. The chief of detectives seems the same, though. Why don't we look for some other people to talk to? Right. We can come back here later. Alright. Police department entrance. Howdy, Bambina. Oh, Mr. Marshall. I never thought things would turn out this way when I woke up this morning. Que sera, sera. You never know where life will lead you. Hey, Bambina? I should have known my luck would kind of run out when old Billy dried up this morning. Billy? Must be his pet cactus. Say, where are you headed? Just over to the prosecutor's office for a little interrogation. The idea that he's actually not under arrest seems kind of odd. It's a voluntary appearance, but we all know I won't be coming back. Sorry, but you can't go in the evidence room today, partner. But, Mr. Marshall, why did you do it? Why do prospectors head west? If ever there is a case that needed to know the truth about, it was that one. Before you turn yourself in, Mr. Marshall, would you mind telling us exactly what happened? Looks like I won't be getting a steak lunch today. Something was fishy about the trial from the beginning. It wasn't just me either. All the detectives thought so. What do you mean, fishy? Some of the facts reported were inconsistent with the evidence we found. For example, the murder weapon. The murder weapon? You mean the switchblade knife with the broken tip? That was Joe Dark's after all. Alright, but in the initial autopsy report, the question was raised. Question? The blade of the knife was not a perfect match with the wound the victim sustained. What does that mean? It means there was a good chance the knife was not the murder weapon. However, in the report that was finally submitted, that possibility had been erased. Could the facts have been concealed with forged evidence? That case left behind scars on all of us. Scars that the SL9 incident left behind? I got the looks, but he got the brains, and I was one of the best he was one of the best prosecutors around. I had just made detective when it went down. It was our first case together. How old was he, your brother? He was 27 at the time. He was awarded the highest honor that very day. The highest honor? You mean the King of Prosecutors? I knew it. King of Prosecutors thing which is broken. What are you looking at me like that for? That's an honor for a prosecutor. Mr. Marshall must have really been close with his brother. The day the SL9 incident took place, that wasn't the same day as... That's right, that was the same day as the evidence transferal. Interesting. It was drizzling that morning, and by nightfall there was thunder. I can't believe 2 years has gone by already. I tried to steal the evidence so the case wouldn't die. Apparently someone tried to stop you. Detective Goodman was murdered, and the evidence locker was empty. I think it was Detective Gant. I just think it was him. There was something going on behind the scenes in that case. We all knew that later. Every detective involved in that investigation, save one, was taken care of. Miss Starr was fired, and I was demoted and boxed away in the tiny room. What about Detective Goodman? they did something to him too, the commissioner would get suspicious. No, they were careful enough not to be too obvious. They? Who are you talking about? Don't get upset, Bambina. I mean Damon Grant and Lana Skye. The investigation lead, Damon Gant. Oh, this is not me. The investigation lead, Damon Gant, and his second in command, Lana Skye. There wasn't a person on the force who hadn't heard of that duo. That case was the biggest step in both of their careers. After the case ended, Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office, right? Yeah, Damon Grant, the new chief of police, arranged for that to happen. She's never been the same since she left. Huh? Everyone who knew her said so. Chief Prosecutor Skye was totally different when she was a detective. Now that he mentions it, Emma said something like that too. Tell me, what happened to my sister? Sorry, Bambina, but her secret is too well guarded. I never found out. On the secret. It all started 2 years ago. So there you have it. That's my story. Did you enjoy it, partner? It was certainly enlightening. So she's trying to cover for Gant, I think. She's trying to cover for Gant, maybe, is what's happening here. There's one thing for sure that I found out in court today. That boy Edgeworth isn't my enemy. He was the one who used falsified evidence to get the guilty verdict, but someone else was the one who gave him that evidence and planned everything. That someone is Damon Gant. Don't believe me? Well, I don't blame you. I won't even be a patrolman after today. Alright, yeah. Too bad I won't be able to work with you when you become a real scientific investigator. Adios, Bambina. Alright. Okay. Let's see if Gant's here. No. This place is always pretty empty, but today it's deserted. Must mean everyone's all busy solving crimes. Oh, if you're looking for the others, they're all in the conference room. Thanks? Wow, he actually talked to us. The chief prosecutor saying that he did, and with the chief prosecutor saying what she did, and the decision about what to do about Mr. Edgeworth, not to mention our statement to the media and trials tomorrow, there's more chaos going on than Thanksgiving and Christmas put together. I think festive is the word usually used for those. Sir, we'd like to have a look around Chief Gant's office. Just use the connecting hallway to the other building and take the elevator to the top floor. Really? You mean it's okay for us to go in there? I mean, we aren't police officers or anything. Hey, you're right. You can't go in there. It's off limits. Now I see where Detective Gumshoe gets his unique charm. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's head to the chief's office. What the hell is this? What the hell kind of office is this? It's got a giant organ in it. What in the world am I looking at right now? Whoa, where am I? In the chief's office, silly. At least that's what I said. That's what it said on the door. Check out the pipe organ. It's real, isn't it? Hey, I used to take organ lessons in kindergarten. They used to call me Little Miss Bach. I thought it was a genius. I thought I was a genius. Okay, I don't know what she just said. I never could remember where C was. Oh, it's you two. Chief Gant. He put that paper he was reading on his desk. So, Rido, have you been swimming lately? No, I haven't. I've been kind of busy lately. I can appreciate that. I've had my hands full too with Mr. Marshall's misconduct and Lana's provocative statement. Provocative statement? Oh, you mean about the forged evidence? 2 years ago passed in that incident. Oh, My, how time flies. See that big picture on the wall over there? Yeah, I did see it, actually. That's a picture of Lana, Neil, and me. So this is Mr. Marshall's brother, Prosecutor Neil Marshall. We took it to commemorate our work together. Something's not right with the picture. The shield is broken. I can't quite seem to put my finger on it, though. Okay, we got a picture. Anyway, I'd like to reminisce all day, but there are matters that need my attention. I'm going to lock up here, so let's go out together. Oh, but this office, this was a crime scene 2 years ago, wasn't it? The case has long been over. There's no need to investigate it anymore. All the same, we'd like to look around. We'd like to have a look around. Perhaps you didn't hear me. I said there's no need to investigate it anymore. Now hurry up and get out. I have a meeting to attend. Okay, kicked us out of our office. Looks like we aren't welcome. It seems that case isn't over with yet, after all. What do you mean? Chief Gant denied our request to search the crime scene. That means there must be a reason he doesn't want us looking around in there. You mean like a clue? There's gotta be a way we can get inside the chief's office. Yeah, let's get into the chief's office! Let's do it! Alright. Let's do crimes! It's time to do some crimes. Hey, pal. Hey, it's Gumshoe. Maybe he can help us get in. Detective Gumshoe, aren't you supposed to be in a meeting? I'm just taking a breather. My feet hurt. From sitting so long? Actually, from serving everyone coffee. Sounds like Detective Gumshoe's still out of the loop. Have either of you seen Edgeworth? Edgeworth? No. Why do you ask? He's under fire from both the police department and the prosecutor's office. It's almost like the battle between you two in court. That sounds serious. Is it because of what my sister said? That's basically what it all boils down to. That falsified evidence 2 years ago. Now Mr. Edgeworth has the whole world after his blood. Yikes. So why would Edgeworth be blamed? It's not like he knew the evidence was forged. Lana Skye is the guilty party here, isn't she? Regardless, the prosecutor is responsible for the evidence they present in court. Not only that, but as you know, there have been a lot of rumors going around about Edgeworth. His amazing talent as a prosecutor kept him safe from those who didn't like him. But now, with this, are there really so many people who hate him? In our world, only those with talent rise to the top. Mr. Edgeworth not only has that, but he's young. There's no better recipe I know of for making enemies. Hey, Nick. Keep up the good work. Yes, sir. Let's get out. Let's go out for lunch again sometime. My treat. Yes, sir. You gotta take me back to that joint someday, okay, Dick? Yes, sir. Seems like you don't have any problems with enemies. Yeah, well, I'm careful not to stick out. Anyway, I'm a bit worried about him. Under all this pressure, I'm afraid Mr. Edgeworth just might crack. Actually, I took a look at the file earlier while the coffee was brewing. He seems genuinely concerned for Edgeworth. Well, did you find out anything? The only evidence Dirk left behind was during his final attack. His final attack? You mean when he killed Prosecutor Marshall, who was trying to protect some girl? Me. Seems Detective Gumshoe never realized Emma was the girl. That's when he left the most incriminating evidence of all. Well, what was it? Oh, let's see. I think it had to do something with the murder weapon? Oh, I forgot. Look, it's all written somewhere in there, okay? His powers of recollection never fail to impress. Maybe we should show him the murder weapon. It might jog his memory. Okay. Joe Dark was 42 at the time of the crime. He was just your run-of-the-mill businessman. A businessman? What made him take to serial killing? Nikita! One day on his way home from work, he hit someone with his car. With his car? So it was an accident? An accident, yes, but it transformed him into an animal. An animal. He killed a man that witnessed the accident. Then he killed a lady who saw the second crime. A kid walked by then, so he killed him too. The jogger at the scene was killed as well. Finally, he turned himself in. Seems he was a pretty careless animal. Of course, this is all conjecture. There wasn't a single shred of evidence. So he turned himself in. Yes, but in the middle of his questioning, he fled and murdered his final victim. Prosecutor Marshall. That crime was witnessed by someone too. But luckily, Dark was arrested on the spot. It's a good thing that last witness wasn't killed. That last witness, aka Emma. Nikita! Ugh! Stop it! Stop it! Okay. Nikita is just getting under my feet. She's getting under my feet, and I don't like it, because I'm afraid I'll step on her or run her over with a chair or whatever. Alright, let's show him this murder weapon. Here it is. Present. About this. Hey, is that... There's a tag attached to it with the label SL9 Incident on it. I believe this would be the broken murder weapon you were speaking of. Oh, what are you doing with that? Ever since that case was closed, that knife's been locked away in the locker. On the day of Detective Goodman's murder, this suddenly disappeared from the locker and was found in Mr. Edgeworth's car muffler. That's it. Now I remember what the incriminating piece of evidence was. When you showed me that knife, it all came back to me. Well, what was it, Detective? Quick, before you forget again. This knife, it was Joe Dark's, wasn't it? That's right. We traced it back to the store he bought it at, plus it had his fingerprints on it too. But no one actually witnessed him using it to murder anyone, right? That's where his luck ran out. When you take a good look at the knife, you'll see it's broken. You don't have to take a good look at it to notice that. Yeah, well, anyway. Take a guess where the broken off tip of the knife was found. That's what did him in. Where was it? The victim, Neil Marshall, was carrying it inside his own body. It was found deep inside the stab wound. Did it match Dark's knife? You bet. Down to the last fiber. That's pretty conclusive. And is pretty conclusive. Well, there you have it. In a nutshell. That's all I know. Can I ask you one more thing? What is it? If it's money you need, you should ask Chief Gant. It's not money, but it does concern the Chief. His office is a crime scene, right? Tour prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered. Chief's out now, and his office is locked. But we'd like to have a look around, if that's okay. Well, any detective's ID card can unlock that door. What? Really? But if I let a civilian in there, I'd be charged with breach of trust. Breach of trust? Simply put, I'd be canned. Oh. Sorry, pal. I don't plan on getting fired because of you. How about this ID card? It was Detective Goodman's. That won't work either. The data was deleted the day he died. Oh. So, in other words, Gumshoe is our only chance of getting into that office. I wonder if there's something we could show him that would make him change his mind. Alright, we gotta show him something. But what? But what? Let me share a little advice with you as a detective. If you don't have a clue, keep your trap shut. I'll keep that in mind. Sheesh. What can we show him? Also, what the hell is this? Remember when we put that together? No, maybe we don't have anything to show him yet. Maybe we have to look around for something. See what's going on here. No one's here today. Not even Miss Starr. Everybody's probably busy looking into what exactly went down in the evidence room. That must be where the detectives are. We proved in court today that on the day of the crime, no one was murdered in the evidence room at 5:15 p.m. Yeah, I thought we were finally making some headway in our case. But instead, it looks like we just ended up making Lana look even more guilty. Hang in there, Lana. I've got to find all the answers by tomorrow. Okay, so nobody's in here. So this isn't anything. Ugh. High prosecutor's office. Let's go here. Let's talk to Edgeworth. I wonder if Edgeworth is back yet. There he is. Looks like he's writing something. What are you doing here? He sure was quick to throw that paper on the floor. Tough day in court, huh? I've had to live the past 2 years with rumors flying around. What's another allegation to me? Cheer up, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm rooting for you. That's Edgeworth for you. Always trying to hide his real feelings. So what do you want? Unlike some people, I don't have all day. There was no excuse for what I've done. 2 years ago, I used false evidence to obtain a guilty verdict. That's what it all breaks down to. And nothing I can do, and nothing I can erase. Nothing I can do can erase that fact. But you didn't know, did you? I mean, that the evidence was falsified. The police department and the prosecutor's office share a bond of trust. If that bond is broken, we stand to lose everything. The police's error is my error. My responsibility is the prosecutor in charge. That fact remains the same no matter what excuse I might have. Mr. Edgeworth, I take pride in my work, so tell me why. Why has it all come to this? Even Edgeworth can't keep this kind of emotion bottled up. Are you up for trial tomorrow? First last year's trial, and now this one. It seems all you do is worry about me. To be honest, you're getting on my nerves. Mr. Edgeworth, you can't just walk out on the trial. Tomorrow is the last day. It's too late to change prosecutors. I'll bet that's why my superiors are banking. I bet you that's what my superiors are banking on. I never thought that case would come back to haunt me like this. What do you mean? The list of evidence, it seems too short. Most lists run twice as long. It's only half as long as most lists? That is odd. After Neil Marshall was murdered, I became prosecutor for that case. I may not have been part of the investigation, but I knew what I had to do. Use the evidence I was given to prove the suspect guilty. That was really the only thing on my mind at the time. Say, we just saw a picture taken around that time. That picture, something seems strange about it. Could you tell us again about what happened that day? The day Detective Goodman was murdered? You were participating in the ceremony over at the station, right? I've never cared for ceremonies, but I had to attend that one. Because you were awarded this? This one doesn't have a sword on it. This one doesn't have a sword on it. The one in the picture has a sword on it. Those receiving awards can't skip out on the ceremony. I finished up on the office this morning, and we drove over to the police department. You finished up at the office? Yes, just odds and ends, clerical stuff. I didn't plan on returning to the office that day. That is, until I was asked to take something back. Take something back? This. Oh yeah, Chief Gant asked you to hold on to that, didn't he? Yes, it was a piece of evidence in the case that was closed half a year ago. He asked me to bring it back to the prosecutor's office. That's the story we heard yesterday. So you came back here to the prosecutor's office because the chief asked you to. That's right. That is odd. This picture was hanging on the wall in Chief Gant's office. Yeah, see, there's a sword on the thing. Prosecutor Neil Marshall, he had just started making a name for himself. Looks like looks like this was taken when he received the King and Prosecutor's Trophy. Speaking of that, there's something that bothers me. Yeah? The trophy Mr. Marshall's is holding. It's a little different than yours. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, you're right. Ah, I remember now. Remember what? That was what the official prosecutor trophy looked like until 2 years ago. There's a story behind its design. A story? Sounds interesting. Would you mind telling it to us? It's simple, really. Contradiction. That's what the award's based on. That's it? Oh, here we go. This award originates from an ancient Chinese tale. In Chinese, the word contradiction is written with 2 characters. The first means halberd, and the second means shield. Have you heard this story? Me? Oh, sure, everyone knows that. Why don't you tell it, though, for Emma's sake? Very well. Why is it playing this music for this? I found this music very weird. Long ago in the kingdom of Chu, there was an arms merchant. One day he presented the king with 2 items. The first was a halberd, he claimed could slice through any shield or armor. The second was a shield he claimed could withstand any weapon. Wait a minute.
Objection!
Those claims contradict each other! Very perceptive. But then again, you've heard this story before, right? Anyway, as you mentioned, the very descriptions of these items discredit them both. When the king pointed this out, the merchant was left speechless. And thus, the Chinese word for contradiction was born. Oh, I see. So the chipped shield and broken knife symbolize... Precisely. So, they symbolize the merchant's items. The ancient tale ends with a merchant at a loss for words. But it's in our nature to pursue matters to their conclusion, even if it results in something as ugly as this. Wow, thanks Mr. Edgeworth, I learned something new today. That's funny. If that's so, then why were you only given a shield? You'll have to ask Chief Gant. 2 years ago, he had the halberd part of the award abolished. Chief Gant. King Prosecutor's Trophy updated. Is that enough? Is that enough? Is that enough? Is that enough? I wonder what he was writing before. Come on, Mr. Wright. Let's take a look. Are you crazy? Edgeworth is standing right here. Just distract him. I'll check it out. Hey, Edgeworth. Is that Detective Gumshoe out the window there? Oh no, he's falling to the ground. Hold on. First, let me see what this girl's doing, crawling around my feet. He didn't even look. What? Letter of Are you having trouble reading? I'll read it for you. It says, Letter of Resignation. Resignation? Edgeworth, you don't mean... I'm tired, right? I feel as if something inside me has died. But Mr. Edgeworth, None of it is your fault. I know the paths I've walked. You don't need to tell me. And the path I've walked hasn't been a just one. I can't forgive myself for what I've done. And no one else should forgive me either. Uh-oh, I think he's serious. Mr. Wright, please, you have to do something. This letter of resignation, I wonder if I can use it for anything. Oh yeah, that's what I show him. That's what I show him. Show that to Gumshoe and he'll be like, I'll do whatever you want. Excuse me? Oh no. Would either of you care for a quarter pound of roast beef? The Star, I guess she's out of lunches. You certainly are the curious sort, aren't you? Kinda like the first person who sucked a cow's nipple to discover milk. Okay. Still, I never thought you'd go digging up that case from 2 years ago. Everyone in this trial was involved in the SL9 incident. Not only that, but the murder occurred on the very day the evidence from that case was due for transferal. This can't be attributed to mere coincidence. Aren't you forgetting something? You know that little scene I happened to witness? The instant Lana stabbed Detective Goodman with the knife. No matter how much of the past you dig up, it won't change what I saw. Roast beef is meant to be savored when eaten. The Star's hatred toward Lana. It all dates back to 2 years ago. I guess we'll talk to her. Joe Dart. That's a name I'll not soon forget. We trailed him for half a year. Oh, the pressure. Still, I don't think he was ever more alive than I was then. I don't understand. I feel like I don't quite get this whole... Those days were steamier than a bowl of hot gravy. Poor old Jake Marshall, though, must have been going through hell. You mean because of his brother's death? They were close, those two. After Neil died, something took over Jake. He became obsessed. I thought he hit somebody with his car and then killed somebody and killed a boy and then turned himself in. Like, I thought this was like a one-day event. Like, the way it was described to me earlier was he was a serial killer because he just kind of snapped. But maybe this killing of people, he did it over a period of time. I don't know. Seeing Jake like that made her all the more desperate. Her? Lana Skye. My sister? The best of the best were put on that SL9 case. Of course, they were led by the legendary duo. Lana and Chief Gant. After the legendary pair was that legendary pair was the reason we were able to keep up our investigation. That's why we were so shocked over how it turned out. You mean with the forging of the evidence? Don't get me wrong, Joe Dart got what he deserved. Still, it was obvious the evidence produced in court was being manipulated. Items our team never found would suddenly appear while other items were kept secret. But you don't have proof anything illegal was done. I'm proof enough of what happened. After that case, all of us, save Goodman, were relieved of our duties, most without even so much as an explanation. Then Lana Skye transferred to the prosecutor's office and became chief prosecutor. Lana's always wanted to be a prosecutor. Nothing's quite as simple as it appears. Huh? Lana Skye was merely being used as a pawn. That's my take on the matter. She was being used? Damon Grant and Lana Skye. Gant led the investigation with Lana's second in command. They were the best. They solved all kinds of cases together, didn't they? Damon Gant's magnetism in particular was almost unreal. His magnetism? By that I mean his ability to attract evidence. He produced the most incredible evidence in the cases he handled. Incredible evidence? You mean... Oh yes, there were rumors about him even back then. No one dared confront him, though. I think that she's talking about forged evidence. Back then, everyone looked up to Lana. All the detectives wanted to be like her. Really? Oh yes, myself included. I was a fool, really. She hated anything crooked, and always watched out for the other detectives. That's why she was so concerned for Jake. Mr. Marshall? When Jake's brother was murdered, she felt as if she had lost her own brother. If it wasn't for her, I don't think Jake would ever have recovered from his shock. That's what makes it all more infuriating. Miss Starr. That's why I'll never be able to forgive her. Why did she have to turn so cold after that? Being used. Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office 2 years ago, didn't she? Yeah, thanks to Chief Gant's powerful influence. Chief. That's right. Having solved the SL9 case, his position as chief was secured. There was only one thing left for him to control. And when no one could stand in his way... The prosecutor's office. What? You mean that's why Lana was transferred? If he can control the chief prosecutor, he can control the prosecutor's office. That must have been his goal all along. But how could he control Lana? I don't know, but one thing's for sure. Oh! She was being blackmailed! Ever since that case ended, she's never been the same. The only logical conclude, there must have been a reason for her change. At last, I'm finally getting close to the bottom of this ugly mess. Thank you, Miss Starr. You listen to me, rookie. It takes more than just ingredients to create fine cuisine. I hope you turn out to be a better chef than I've been. Alright. She's being blackmailed. Probably. Alright. Back to the police department. I think now we can probably talk to Goodman. Oh, you're back. You're still here? I gotta make 150 copies of these files. Brewing coffee, copying files. I'm turning into a regular DJ. You're a DJ as well? If I'm not mistaken, I think he means desk jockey. Oh, that DJ. I gotta admire your persistency. But my answer's still no. Huh? I'm not letting you into the chief's office, period. It'd be my necktie on the line. That office is the last crime scene in the SL9 incident. I have to take a look in there. Alright, there's gotta be something we can do to make the detective change his mind. Yeah, we're gonna present him with a resignation letter. Oh, what's this crumpled up piece of paper? No way! Mr. Edgeworth can't be serious. Is he ever not serious? I can't believe they've pushed him this far. Mr. Edgeworth really feels responsible. When I first met him, I thought he was as cold as ice, too. But I know different now. Yes, you do. He trusted us detectives to provide him with sound evidence. But we betrayed him. Detective? That's it. I made up my mind. But, here, take my ID card. You can't do this. If someone found out, they wouldn't let you off the hook with another lost item report. Look at me. It's no secret I'm already out of the loop. After all, I'm friends with Mr. Edgeworth. Depending on how this case turns out, I may already be as good as terminated. What? So at least, let me do this, for Edgeworth's sake. Alright, detective. Thank you. Yeah! We did it! Alright. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go to the chief's office. February 24th, Police Department, Chief's Office. Here goes Mr. Wright. We're in. We're in. We're in. We're in. If anyone finds us now, Detective Gumshoe's a goner. If that happens, I'm counting on you to bail me out. Ah! Yeah! Sorry, I thought you were a ghost. I didn't even know you could slap a ghost. Ah, Detective Gumshoe, what are you doing, sneaking up on us like that? I wasn't sneaking. I was just worried something might go wrong, so I came too. If you're here, then what's the point in giving us your ID card? Gumshoe's ID crushed and rendered unusable in pocket. Hey, don't do that to my card. I hardly ever get a chance to come in here. I figured I'd have a look around myself. Besides, we're all in this together now. Hey, Lars. You really do want to get fired, don't you? Yeah, I think so. I don't know if we're gonna finish it tonight, but I'm kind of hoping we do. I've got a bad feeling about this. Alright, let's examine things. Here's a safe. This is a safe, isn't it? Safe? That word is ripe with intrigue. Uh-oh. Or I should say, okay, if you say so. It looks like a code needs to be entered in this panel to open it. A 7-digit number. I think I might know what it is. I think I might know what it is. I think it might be... No, it's not that. Oh, it might be that. It could be 21... We could just use this 2121. Wait, what if we flip it over? 675 1212. I doubt that's it. That would be silly. 675 1212. We're gonna try it. Do you know what it is? I have a hunch. Oh, I know. You want to try my birth date? It's... I have a better idea. Here goes nothing. What was it? 671? No. 675. SL 2121. Ah, that wasn't it. I guess that wasn't it. I was so sure that was the number. Maybe we should check the court record again. A 7-digit number. Oh, it might be in the court record. Okay. All sevens? All sevens, maybe? 7777777? Let's try that. Oh, we gotta go through the whole dialogue again. It was 7777777. That was the number. What number did you enter? Whose birthday was that, pal? 7777777, the final ID card number on that record. What? The number of my mysterious executive officer who entered the room that day. You mean...
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.
Thanks for the follow. 7777777. That ID number? I think you're 17 shy this time. Can only mean one thing. That's Officer Kant's ID number. Say, anyone care to look inside? Okay. Yeah, we're gonna look inside. Is there any money in there? How much does he have stashed away? Look, it's a A shard from a broken cup? This somehow looks familiar. Where have I seen this before? There's something else in here too. What's this? It looks like a piece of leather cloth with a handprint on it. This is a handprint, isn't it? Hey, I saw someone wear a shirt like that once. You think the chief made up the design? I don't think so. Oh, well, it's just a thought. This is it. This is all that was in the safe. Apparently so. It's empty now. A piece of cloth with a handprint on it. And a broken shard from a cup. They look like pieces of evidence. Yeah, but unless you can prove they have something to do with this case, I'm afraid I can't just let you take them. After all, it's my neck on the line here. Great, now I have to prove their relevancy to get them. How are these two items related to the SL9 incident? Come on, there's gotta be something we can show the detective. Okay, well, I do. Is all we have to do is open the safe in here? Like, is that it? Detective Gumshoe, did you have another look at this jar? I remember when the three of us put that back together, huh? Those were the days. It's kind of early to be nostalgic. Wasn't this jar a piece of evidence from that case? That's right. One of the shards had an SL9 incident sticker on it. Doesn't this ring any bells? You know, that fragment we just found? You mean this one? That was in the safe? Yes, that one. It was in the safe. Now that you mention it, it's ringing a lot of bells. Let's see if it fits. Here, let me see what that shard. Let's take a crack at this. Go ahead, pal. Show us what a rookie can do. Mr. Wright, here's some glue. If I can piece this together again, it'll prove Police Gant was knowingly hiding evidence. Here goes. Oh, this is easy. This is easy. There you go, boom. Done. There, it fits like a charm. That, of course, means Chief Gant willingly and knowingly hid a piece of jar in his safe. In other words, he concealed a piece of evidence from the SL9 incident. But, hey guys, get a load of this. What is it? This piece you just attached. It's different from the others. There's a reddish line on it. A reddish line? That's blood. I don't get it. Why would Chief Gant hide this in his safe? And we also have to prove the handprint. We can probably get fingerprints from it, so let's see if we can use this. Detective Gumshoe, I'd like you to have a look at this. Hey, I know what that is. So you want to take some fingerprints? It's a great idea, detective. Alright, go to town. Sheesh. What are you doing? Why are you sticking out your hand like that? Go ahead. You hate Lana in this case? It's not your fingerprints. Yeah, we kind of figured out that she was or I kind of figured out that she was, like, trying to take the fall for Gant for some reason. Probably, I figured she's probably being blackmailed or something, but I don't know. It's not your fingerprints we want you to take. Huh? Come on, this isn't the time for jokes. We're talking about that cloth we found in the safe. Oh, I knew that. The one with the handprint on it, right? Sheesh, where's your sense of humor? Oh, yeah, we're gonna take... Okay, Mr. Wright, let's check for prints. Sprinkle the powder on it, and once you've done it, blow the rest away. Are you my mom? I don't need to be told a million times. Alright, let's get this over with. Alright, let's dust this with the thumbprint. Alright. And I'm gonna blow. There we go. I gave him my best shot. This kind of result won't be good for matching prints, will it? But it doesn't look like it'll get clear result from this print. Okay, let's try a different one then. Let's try this one. Put all the dust on it. Oh, that's not a good print either. Middle finger, maybe? Hey, that's a good print. That's a pretty good print. I bet you we can match this one. We gotta get the bottom of it. Hey, that's good. Oh, now we gotta match it to somebody. Nope. 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 Yes. It's Emma's fingerprint. She's taking the fall for Emma. Did Emma murder that guy? No, how can this be? What are Emma's fingerprints doing here? Hey, you found a match. Whose fingerprints were they? Huh? Oh, it seems the prints are too old. They aren't clear enough to get a match. Oh, that's too bad. I thought they'd be Dark's fingerprints. Psst. Hey, you, over here. What's going on here? What are the kids' prints doing inside the chief's safe? Don't ask me. Let's just keep this information from Emma for now. Why? Here, maybe you should hold on to this. Alright, do we get out of here? Do we need anything else in here? What do you think? I think there's probably more stuff in here. I'm guessing something's gonna trigger. Wow, look at the size of Chief Gant's desk. Speaking of that, when we were here earlier... Oh, it's you two. Chief Gant. He put that paper he was reading in his desk. Well, she said she blacked out. I don't know. I'm guessing did she stab him with the thing from the award? Because that would be funny. He put this paper he was reading in his desk. Oh yeah, he did. I wonder what he was reading. This looks like a list of evidence. A list of evidence. In most cases, the list runs twice as long as this, though. Hey, look at the case name. Huh? SL9 incident. I wonder what he was doing, what this is doing here. Hold on, detective. What did you just say? I said, I wonder what... No, about evidence lists. Normally they're twice as long? That's right. I guess there wasn't a lot of evidence. A half-size list of evidence. A list of evidence, it seemed too short. Most lists run twice as long. What would the other half of the list be doing here? I knew it. The chief must be hiding something about the case. It would appear so. Alright, we got the evidence list. It was ripped in half. So this part is all I've got. Alright. Let's look at it. Let's look at it. Oh, you can't even see it. Whoa, what's this? The heck? I think that's Emma's drawing. I wonder what this is. It looks like someone drew some kind of sketch here. What is this? Did you find something? I can't make it out. I better keep quiet about it for now. Huh? Oh, no, it's nothing. Why are your eyes moving all around like that, Mr. Wright? I better not forget about this picture. Why are we hiding stuff from Emma? I don't understand this. Alright, are we done now? What do we do now? Let's check this desk. This is Lana's desk. It sure is tidy. Lana's always been a meticulous cleaner. There's not even any dust on it. Looks like someone's still keeping it clean. Does Lana ever come back here? No. She must keep it clean in memory of their partnership. They were stuff of legends. Does she keep it in the memory of her or in the memory of the crime? These shelves are mostly empty. Lana must have cleaned them out when she transferred over to the prosecutor's office. There's a small picture frame on the left side of the shelf. Hey! This is when Lana and I went to the theme park. The Chief's organ sure is a sight to behold. Occasionally we hear him playing it from the Criminal Affairs Department. It's on the 2nd floor, and this is the 15th floor of an entirely different building. When a detective screws up, the chief calls them into his office and makes them listen to the organ for hours. What's so bad about that? Music soothes the soul. After that, the detective can't hear anything for days except for the ringing in their ears. So it's an instrument of punishment, literally. But aren't the chief's ears affected? He never listens to anyone anyway. That's besides the point. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? I don't think that... Hey, the desk is still relevant. Wow, look at the... Okay. Miss Edgeworth had the other... What would this list be doing here? We better look some more into this list. Okay, let's leave, I guess, and see if we can talk to Edgeworth about it. Okay, move. Right, please. I'm a prosecutor on this case. You don't expect me to sit here and discuss the case with you over a cup of tea. I'll pass on the tea. Just tell me about the case. Mr. Wright, Mr. Edgeworth just told you no in a very stylish manner. What side are you on anyway? Maybe if I just show him my best evidence, I can get some reaction out of him. Alright. Right? Okay. Oh, we can ask questions. That desk on the other side of the room, was that your sister's? Yes, that's where I was waiting for Lana on that day 2 years ago. Is anyone using it now? No, sir. This is entirely Chief Gant's office now. He practices a strict policy of preserving the crime scene. It's a strange reason to leave it there. He leaves it as a warning to anyone else. He wants us to always be alert. He told us so himself on our New Year's party. Of course, he was pretty intoxicated at the time. I see. So ever since Lana left, no one ever touches that desk? No one except Chief Gant and the cleaning lady who's in here each morning. Still, 2 years have passed since that incident. There can't possibly be any clues remaining. Can I ask you something? Sure. You only came here to look around, right? Because it's one of the SL9 crime scenes? I mean, that's your only reason for coming here, isn't it? Why do you ask? You don't think... Nah, it wouldn't be... No. There's no way. Never mind. Don't worry about it. Okay, now then, let's look around a bit more. Hey, hold on. Not so fast, buddy. Huh? What is it? When someone tells you don't worry about it, it's supposed to start bothering you, pal. You just don't let it go with that. Sorry, this guy's starting to get on my nerves. Okay, so what's bothering you? You two don't think Chief Gant might be a suspect, do you? What? Yes, I do. That he's right, Mr. Wright. What do we think of him? Chief Gant, so it's finally come to this. What do I think of him? Perhaps it's best I don't divulge my feelings yet. There you go, ignoring me again. Well, was I any help? Of course. Thanks to your ID card, we were able to get some hard evidence. Now, that's not very kind, is it? In other words, if it wasn't for his ID card, he would have been useless? Isn't that right? You in the coat? Ah! Chief Gant! We didn't think you'd be back so soon. Fortunately, I'm a man who believes in signs. As I was walking to my meeting, I happened to look out a window and saw a stray dog run right into a pole. Just then I thought of a certain detective. You mean me, sir? Now then, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you all to leave. Yes, sir. Sorry. Oh, you in the coat. Me, sir? Drop off your ID on the way out. You won't be needing it anymore. But, sir... In other words, you're fired. Now get out. Yes, sir. Well, be on your way too, then. Wait, you, the one with the spiky hair. Don't go yet. Me, sir? I'd like a word with you. She said that. What? Did she say the one with the spiky hair? You with the spiky hair, you're free to go. Mr. Wright? Oh no, that's not good. Look, pal, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. The chief's office is off limits. But no, you just had to go sneaking in there like that, didn't you? I thought you said you didn't care anymore if you were fired. Yeah, but if I knew it'd be like this, I never would have said it. Now that I've got the evidence Chief Gant was hiding in his office, I think I'm finally starting to get the picture. But why was she kept eerily silent about it all this time? Anyway, you listen to me? Yeah, she doesn't have spiky hair. Anyway, you listening to me? I'm gonna try to sue things over with Chief again. Later, pal. After that, I heard from Emma. She said the police wanted to ask her some questions, so she'll be busy for the rest of the day. And now I'm in the detention center again. I see, so the chief asked Emma to come in for questioning? But it's no use thinking about it. Tomorrow is the final day of the court. I'm committed to doing everything I can do to defend you, which is why I'm here. But I've already told you all I can. What you've told me over these past couple of days is absolutely nothing. Not a single useful thing. Really? I believe I did mention something quite important. Something I told you right at the beginning. I said that I was the one who stabbed Detective Goodman. You know, I think I'm finally figuring it out. I know who it is that's lurking behind your words. Mia did a good job mentoring you. I'm rather jealous. It seems Edgeworth was right. Edgeworth? Once you're convinced you know something, no one can persuade you otherwise. Thick-headed is the term he used, I believe. Now's my chance to get her to tell me the rest of the story. Let's show her this handprint. Oh, I gotta talk to her. You're evolving by leaps and bounds. I'm starting to see the hunger in your eyes. Okay, so don't show her evidence, talk to her. Okay, keeping quiet. I have to admit I was more than a little perplexed at first. You insisted you did it, yet there was no incriminating evidence. That's when it hit me. It's not that you're unwilling to tell the truth. It's that you're incapable of doing so because of a certain individual. What an intriguing notion. A certain individual, you say. So you think I'm protecting this person? Protecting? No, I think afraid of is more like it. If I'm not mistaken, the person in question may have persuaded you to silence. For argument's sake, Mr. Wright, who may I ask is the person you're speaking of? The one I am supposedly frightened of. Who is this person?
Take that!
Well, Miss Sky. Mr. Wright, you are addressing the chief prosecutor. Do not forget your place. I think that she's still not ready to spill the beans. My apologies. Could you please tell me a bit more about what you think you know? We're partners until 2 years ago. I respected him as a detective. Assuming he is respectable, then tell me something. Why would he try to hide his crimes? His crimes? Both you and Edgeworth will be brought before a board of inquiry for what you did, specifically hiding and forging evidence. Of course, these are serious offenses. Why is it, though, that Chief Gant's name was never mentioned? Chief Gant? Edgeworth didn't know the truth behind the forgery. The only party who could have possibly tampered with the evidence was me. I had access because I was second in command of that investigation. Yes, you, but also one other, Damon Gant. If you intend to accuse Chief Gant, you need more than just words. Show me proof that Gant falsified evidence in this case. Alright, I got proof. I got this. I got this. I just found this in the safe in the chief's office. This jar piece and this piece of cloth. Do you know what these are? They're pieces of evidence from the SL9 incident. The person concealing evidence was none other than Chief Gant himself. Now tell me, why are you taking all the blame for him? Touché, Mr. Wright. It is as you surmised. I cannot disobey the chief's orders, even if it means being found guilty for murder. Why not? Come on, Mr. Wright. You can't possibly expect me to be able to tell you that. 3 days ago, I had no choice but to cooperate. In the murder of Detective Goodman? Or perhaps I should say follow orders. Yes, that's more accurate than cooperate. So she was ordered to kill Detective Goodman. Though I can't tell you the details, I can say that I was given an order that day. You need to dispose of Bruce Goodman's body. You'll find it inside the trunk of Miles Edgeworth's car. Oh, she didn't actually kill him. Okay. Just as I suspected. Despite what everyone believes, you were not the one who murdered Detective Goodman. Correct. I was trying to take the body out of Edgeworth's car. The trunk's lock was broken, and I discovered that the murder weapon... I discovered that murder weapon while inspecting the body. The murder weapon? You mean Edgeworth's knife? No. When I found the body, this was the knife stuck in it. The knife from the SL9 incident? Serial killer Joe Dark's knife? I couldn't just leave that knife in him, so I took it out and stabbed him with another knife. That would be Edgeworth's knife. That's right. Even though he was already dead, my hands were shaking at the thought of stabbing him. That's why I ended up cutting my hands. And that was the reason for the bandage on your right hand? Yes, it seems that I got blood on the victim's shoes as well, and then... She saw me just as I plunged the knife in. Miss Starr, huh? Why did you need to hide Dark's knife so badly? It took a lot of work to finally close the Dark case 2 years ago. It was over with. I didn't ever want it to be open. My intent was to prevent that, but by whatever means possible. So you hid Dark's knife. The weapon used to stab the detective was evidence in the Joe Dark case. If word got out, which it would, the reporters would have a field day with it. So you wrapped the knife in your scarf and hid it in Edgeworth's exhaust pipe. Right, then I called my sister to tell her what happened and to ask her to hide the knife that was inside my muffler. You ask Emma? I didn't want anyone in the force to know about this. That would explain why Emma is so confident about Lana's innocence. Speaking of phone calls, I had a bad feeling about one of them that day. A bad feeling? The truth is, after I received those orders from Chief Gant, the first thing I did was make a phone call. A phone call to Patrolman Jake Marshall. To Marshall? Why on earth would you call him? The lead investigator for the SL9 incident has been murdered. I wanted that fact to be kept hidden, and I needed help. He was the only other person I could trust, or at least I thought I could trust him at that time. However, it seems that after I spoke to him, he went off on an escapade of his own. Oh, you mean, not wanting the case to die, he decided to take things into his own hands. He disguised himself as Detective Goodman and tried to steal the evidence. He had already stolen the ID card, but it seems he still hadn't made up his mind to break into the evidence room. After my phone call, any remaining doubts he had must have disappeared, so your phone call caused the incident in the evidence room. Alright. I'm afraid that's all I can tell you, but Lana, you've earned my respect, Mr. Wright, both as a defense attorney and an investigator. Now please, don't pursue this any further in court tomorrow. Tomorrow's trial. There's only one way to drive off Lana's demons. I've got to get to the bottom of everything. BS! I'm gonna pursue this all the way to the top! Detective Goodman's real murderer is probably Detective Gann. This guy right here. See this guy? He's a jerk face. And what went down in the chief's office 2 years ago. To be continued!